Hello everyone, welcome again. I am Dr. Anandarup Goswami from Division of Chemistry, Department of Science and Humanities at VFSTR. So today we will be again discussing some of the topics related to nanomaterials, which is your Unit 5 for Engineering Chemistry A. So before going to details, as we have done before, let's see whatever we have covered till now, right? So we have covered till now pretty much up to classification. So if you have listened to my previous lecture, you know that we have finished around how to classify these nanomaterials, and before that we started discussing about properties and have given you history as well as the definition and some idea about the nanoscale. So pretty much now, at least at this context, we are now pretty much aware about what nanomaterial is and why that is kind of important for our day-to-day life as well as for various industrial applications. So today what we are going to do, we are going to talk about synthesis of nanomaterials, and as you know, while discussing this, most of these are going to be falling under the engineered nanomaterials. Let's see how we can actually start synthesizing nanomaterials. There are primarily two types of synthesis, two major types of synthesis. First one is called top-down. Now what is a top-down approach? As the name suggests, is essentially from the top you are going down. That's as simple as it is. So that essentially means that once you start having a bulk material, then if you by some way or the other, we will discuss some of the techniques later on, by some way or the other, if you can actually break them in such a way that eventually you will get to a point where you reach the nanoscale, then that synthesis is going to be considered as top-down synthesis. You are starting from bulk, you are breaking them into smaller pieces. So start with the bulk material and cut away the material to make the what you want. In our case, we want nanomaterials, right? So this is the top-down approach. What about the second one? Second one is called bottom-up approach, a reverse of top-down approach. In this case, building what you want by assembling it from building blocks such as atoms or molecules. In this particular case, we already know nanomaterials are still bigger than atoms and molecules, right? If you can start putting the atoms together in such a way that you go to a nanoscale, then that kind of approach will be called as bottom-up approach. Obviously, it is not that easy to put precisely one after another, but there are processes by which you can actually optimize the reaction conditions in such a way from a precursor which are at the atomic or molecular scale, so that you can actually convert them to a nanomaterial. We will also discuss some of the topics regarding this. Okay, so it's atom by atom, molecule by molecule, a cluster by cluster. So basically, as I said, there are two types, top-down, bottom-up. There are thousands of synthetic procedures by which you can make nanomaterials. Most of them come under either this category or that category. Yeah, in terms of if you are going at the scale wise, top-down is you are going from the top, you are bringing it down at the nanoscale. We already know this. This is what is nanoscale. Okay. Whereas for the bottom-up approach, it's actually you are at the atoms or molecules level. Then you are going from that level to the nanoscale. So this is our basic idea. So there are different types of synthetic procedures which you can use. For example, if it's a top-down, you can use nanolithographic method or milling processes. If it's a bottom-up, you can use aerosol, soil gel precipitations, several types of other processing techniques by which you can make from atoms to a particular material at the nanoscale. So essentially, again, if you want to just discuss about this one, as we said, once you start from the bulk material, if you start cutting it down, if you just keep on cutting it down, you will go to a powder form, and then from powder form, this may or may not be at the nanoscale, but from powder form, you are going to go to this nanoparticle. Okay. Whereas in the other case, in case of bottom up, you have some molecules or atoms, or you call it as precursors, where precursors means those are the starting material in a very simple term. Starting material for making a nanoparticle. Okay, so from there you can start synthesizing the cluster. What is cluster? Cluster between nanoparticles and atoms. So that means you start putting them together, you reach a level which is not at the nanoscale, but it is reaching there. So once you have that kind of molecular assembly, or we can call it as, or atomic assembly, you can call it as cluster. Then from there we can go to nanoparticle. So what's next? So till now I have talked about pretty much a general idea about top down and bottom up approach, right? But what are the methods that you can use? What are the ways you can synthesize nanomaterial? That's something that is very important. We really need to know about that. As I said, this top part only I discussed. Synthesis of nanomaterials can be classified as top down or bottom up, right? Now, as far as the top down approach is concerned, as you know that you need something to break down the nanomaterial. Okay, you need kind of, as I have shown in the cartoon, you need some hammer to cut down a bigger chunks to smaller chunks. As simple as that. So, but obviously we are not going to be using hammer. We use some sophisticated physical methods. For example, ball milling, lithography, vapor deposition, sputtering. Sputtering also can be considered as both electron arc deposition, molecular beam epitaxy. You don't need to know all the details about the procedures, but you need to know some terms in it. What is the goal here? In all the cases, our goal is very simple. Goal is that you have the bulk material, by some way or the other. From the bulk material, you are cutting this bulk material in such a way that you are going to get the nanomaterials. So most of them, they are considered as physical methods because there is not much chemical reactions that are happening. In this case, is essentially nothing. You have a bulk A, you are cutting it down to a level where you reach the level of nanoscale. So what happens in the bottom up approach? I told you the bottom up approach, you need a precursor. So you need a precursor which is at the atomic level or molecular level. From there you are going to synthesize. So there are much more chemistry involved. So if you look at the strategy, most of them involve some sort of reactions between one precursor with another precursor, or some reactions that are happening within. So those things we need to understand. So what are the methods that you can have? So as far as the chemical methods are concerned, where the reactions are involved, you can have co-precipitation, condensation, sol gel, microemulsion. Again, these are only some of the techniques. There are thousands of other techniques that you can talk about. Primarily for top down one, as you can see, you need a hammer, and in most of the processes involve physical methods. Whereas in the bottom up case, most of the cases you need chemical methods. Now recently people have found out that in addition to these chemical methods that we have, in case of bottom up approach, there is another one which we call it as biological methods or green synthesis. What are those? As you can see, in all the cases when you talk of synthesized nanomaterials, at least at the beginning, people were not very sure about what is going on. So, and they ended up having the nanomaterials which they want. But the problem was that some of the procedure led to some toxicity. And that time people are more interested in developing nanomaterials rather than testing the toxicity, testing the environmental effect. So later they found out that this is something that is going to be a problem for future. While doing that, they started thinking what are the ways by which they can actually come up with strategies which may not lead to this kind of toxic processes. So one of them is actually by the introduction of these biological methods or green synthesis. Okay. What in this case, what happens? In this case, let's say you want to have a gold nanoparticle, right? Previously what you used to do in a very simple way, so you have, as far as the bottom-up approach is concerned, you have a gold plus 3 solution, okay? That's your precursor solution. You need some electrons, let's say 3 electrons, and you form gold 0. Now this is just for one atom I am writing, right? So like that there will be thousands of other atoms, or maybe hundreds of atoms. Now those atoms will now stick together and they will form a nanomaterial. Okay, that's the basic idea of formation of nanomaterial. Now in this case, these 3 electrons has to come from something. In case of reaction, if you have gold 3 going to gold 0, we call it as reduction. Once you have that reduction process, that means someone has to give these 3 electrons. Why it is reduction? Gold 3 is going to gold 0, right? So your oxidation number is decreasing. So that's why it's a reduction process. Someone will have to give these 3 electrons, and the species or the reagent that gives the 3 electrons, we call it as reductant. Now in most cases, the reductant that we use, or reducing agent also you can call them, that we use are sodium borohydride or any other chemicals which are capable of donating those 3 electrons. Now people have found out that you don't really need that kind of strong reducing agent. In fact, there are some plant extract, there are some enzymes, there are some agriculture waste which may also be used as reducing agent to provide, to actually give you that kind of reduction. These are all derived from the biological sources. So these bio-derived sources will have immense impact because they were anyway, most of them are available in abundance in nature. So you don't really need to actually think about whether it's going to be decreased in over the years or not. So eventually, for all these processes, at least for the waste part, you also want them to be utilized for something. So these are some of the cases where people have used this kind of material to actually synthesize nanomaterial, and these processes are primarily, they are non-toxic as compared to their physical and chemical methods. That's why these are actually coming into the literature more and more. Okay, so this is something very, very unique processes. Nowadays people are actually working on this particular topic a lot, because it's also relatively easy to use this kind of source to do the desired nanoparticle synthesis. This is just one example. It doesn't have to be a metal. It could be metal oxide. It could be something else also. We are not going to discuss that in details. But what I'm trying to say that once you classify as top-down or bottom-up, you can further classify them according to the synthesis strategies. Okay, so some of them are physical, some of them are chemical, some of them are biological. So now let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of top-down and bottom-up approach. I have explained certain procedures for top-down and bottom-up approach. As far as the synthesis is concerned, the advantages of top-down approach is large-scale production. You can actually synthesize in large scale. Okay, you can deposit over large substrate possible. Now once we talk about this one, once we talk about this part, obviously that means that is going to be a disadvantage for bottom-up approach, right? So which you can correlate here. Large scale production is difficult. So you essentially need to know one side. You can write the other side just by changing, just by switching the quadrants, right? So chemical purification is not required. it's again, this is not very general, but most of the cases it may not be required. Whereas in this case, chemical purification is required. We'll see certain examples of that also. Now, as far as the advantage of bottom-up approach is concerned, you are going to get ultra-fine nanoparticle. Why? Because mostly this is not coming from the bulk, this is coming from the atoms. So if you can vary your reaction conditions, there are ways that you can stop the reaction at a scale which is going to give you a very small nanoparticle. Okay? So they are called ultra small, ultra fine nanoparticle. That can also be done. And because you are controlling at that scale, at the atomic scale, there is a possibility that you will have narrow size distribution. What do you mean by narrow size distribution? If you remember, last time when we discussed about the classification, I said something about the uniformity, whether all particles are of same size or not, right? So in this case, in top down, it's a bit tricky to get to that narrow size distribution, whereas in this case, it is relatively easy to get to that narrow size distribution. That means most of the cases, the particles are of same size. Okay? And it's a bit cheaper technique as compared to top down, because top down, certain cases it requires a huge instrument. Okay, there is some instrumental cost associated with it. Maintaining the instrument is another headache. So all these things are coming into the disadvantage of top down approach, whereas in this particular case you don't have to worry about that too much. There are certain ways, obviously there are certain techniques which will have some sort of cost issue associated with it, but you don't have to worry about too much. Okay, what about the disadvantages? The disadvantage is, as I said, so this can be correlated with that one. So it's going to give you broad size distribution. You have less control over how small you can make and how uniform you can make. Okay, so varied particle shapes in geometry, because most of this you are actually going to cut down. These cutting processes are not always very good, very uniform. So sometimes you get different geometry depending on where you are cutting, what are your conditions are. Okay, so control over deposition parameters is difficult to achieve. Now when we talk about deposition, it essentially, because we haven't talked about this in details, it's nothing. I will give you one simple example. You have a substrate. You have the bulk material which you want to make at the nanoscale. So this is your bulk material. Now there are processes by which you can vaporize them, or you can actually kind of cut them and using laser or something, but by which you can take that and put it on this substrate. When they get deposited on the substrate, that actually gives you a nanomaterial. The particles that are going to be deposited on the substrate, they are going to be at the nanoscale. So this is a bit tricky for top-down approach to go from this bulk to that material. Okay, sometimes it often is tricky because you need to vary a lot of parameters, temperature, their growth kinetics, and some other issues are also associated with them. Okay, now one problem is impurities. This is actually a very, very tricky problem for this kind of system, because what happens in this case, you don't have much control about the impurities. Here you exactly know what you are putting in. Here you know the bulk, but during the processes, if there are some impurities, it could be a lot of impurities like coming from the instrument, coming from other sources, then there is a possibility that that will also be added into your synthesized material. So in that case, it's a bit tricky to control the percentage of impurities in case of top down. And as I said, it's a bit expensive techniques. This is relatively cheaper techniques, bottom up. This is a bit expensive one. So now once we are done with the comparison, let's start focusing on different techniques. So what we are going to do, we are going to focus on taking one example from top down and taking another one from bottom up. Right. So as far as our next discussion is concerned, today what we are going to do, we are going to finish up discussing this examples of top-down and bottom-up approach. So in this case, we are going to discuss one from each case, which is, first one is, in the top-down one is called mechanical or ball milling, and the second one in bottom-up we call it as soil gel. Okay, so these are the two techniques that we are going to be using to explain what top-down and bottom-up approach mean. Okay, so now as I said, there are other techniques and they all have their own advantages and disadvantages, but these two we have chosen because so that you get some idea about what exactly top-down and bottom-up approach mean. And hopefully during the next discussion, when we'll start discussing about carbon-based structure, fullerene, graphene, carbon nanotube, some of the other techniques will also be explained. So let's concentrate on mechanical and ball milling. Okay, so as far as our topic is concerned, a ball mill, also known as pebble mill or tumbling mill, is a milling machine that consists of a cylinder containing balls mounted on a metallic frame such that it can be rotated along its longitudinal axis. Now it sounds a bit fancy, but as far as the process is concerned, it's very simple. So this is what it is. You have a cylinder, the cylinder containing high density of metallic ball. You have some balls, okay, which are fine metallic ball of different shapes and different sizes. Now what you do, you take the cylinder, put it in certain metallic frame and you rotate this. You rotate this at a longitudinal axis with different rotating speed. What will happen? Now, if there is no material, nothing is going to happen. Now, what is going to happen if you put your bulk material to this? Once you put your bulk material, this material is a big ones, they will be here, right? Because the bottom one is already taken. Now, once you mix it and if you rotate, now these balls are going to collide with these bulk materials very frequently depending on the rotating speed. Once they start colliding, this is going to break down into smaller pieces. Now if you can control the speed and the size of ball, it will reach to a point where you will have these bulk materials converted to the nanoscale. Okay, so that's pretty much what this process is. So essentially the material to be milled, in this case bulk material, is charged to a vial of the milling balls. As I said, these are some of the balls of different sizes. Now spherical balls that are made of hard material. Now that is very important. You cannot do it with a flexible ball, because it's not going to have a very strong impact with your bulk material. Okay, so your metallic ball has to be hard enough so that it can have the ability to hit your bulk material so hard that it will disintegrate. Okay, the balls, which could be of different diameter like that, occupy 30 to 50% of the mill volume. That means the entire volume of the cylinder, and its size depends on the feed and mill size, depending on what type of material you are going to use for ball milling, what type of bulk material you are going to use, and depending on also what size you want. So depending on that, you can vary the ratio of this ball, and the sizes also you can vary. The sample is then securely attached to the shaker and energetically swung back and forth for several thousand cycles per minute. So once you put your material to it, you put in one of these shakers, close the lid, and you start rotating. Once you rotate, it will rotate like this. As I said, once it will start rotating, you are going to actually get the collisions between these balls with your bulk material. Okay, so this is what happens during the shaking process. Milling balls collide on each other, and with the vial wall. So that's pretty much understandable. Nothing, I'm not saying very different thing here. The high shear and impact forces produced in the process grinds the solid down and mix it thoroughly. So once it starts colliding with each other, it will start breaking into the bulk material is going to start breaking into smaller pieces. So the large balls tend to break down the rough feed, which is the big ones, is going to break down the rough feed. Once the rough feeds of the bulk material is broken, the smaller balls help to form fine structures by reducing void space between the balls. Okay, so this is pretty much what ball milling means. Essentially nothing, you put some balls, you put some bulk material, rotate, shake it really hard so that that ball is going to collide with your bulk material and breaking them into pieces. So as far as the process is concerned, obviously you don't need to know every details of it, but I'm going to give you some idea. So let's say these are this metallic ball. And this is your bulk material. Depending on what kind of material it is, let's say this comes in between two mechanical balls, okay, two metallic balls. Now once it starts, there are certain steps which call it elastic deformation, then it's a plastic deformation, then next is shear deformation, which will actually going to change the shape of these balls. It will give you this particular final product once you have fracture, amorphization and chemical reactions. Now chemical reactions are not that common in this particular case. Okay, essentially what you are doing, you are going from bulk material, not metallic balls, to the final nanomaterials. That's the basic goal behind this particular process. So this is the goal. Whole idea is, using these balls, you are going to actually break this bulk material into smaller fragments, which are at the nanoscale. Now, another thing you can also do is like you can take a mixture. In this case, it is silicon and tin mixture. Once you have the mixture, you can use the same balls. Okay, you put them in the cylinder, and then you can rotate it at a very high speed. Depending on the type of interaction that these balls are going to have with the material, you will get different types of shapes and sizes. Okay, for example, if it is tin, this interaction can lead to tin ribbons. Whereas if it's silica, this interaction, silicon rather, not silica, this is silicon, is going to give you silicon particles. But remember, both are at the nanoscales, but their dimensions are very, very different. Okay, they will lead to different types of things. I hope you got some idea about what this process is. But obviously, for every process, there is some advantages, some disadvantages. So, what are the advantages for ball milling process? It's a top-down approach that we have already discussed, right? So it produces very fine powder, not as fine as the bottom of the approach, but still you can get to around 10 micron, which is quite fine. It is suitable for milling toxic materials. So if you have some problem during synthesis, which you, for example, if you have a toxic material to use, then this is probably one of the best processes to use it, because the entire thing is happening in a closed chambers. You are just putting toxic material, balls, you keep it in a sealed chamber, you rotate, and at the end only you are taking them out. Okay, so this is suitable for milling toxic materials. It can be used for continuous operation. So you don't have to just, if you are, for example, if you want to synthesize, let's say, tin that I have explained, tin nanomaterial, you can do one batch, take it out, do another batch, take it out. It doesn't depend on how they are reacting. The processes are going to be exactly same in all the cases. So it's highly reproducible process. it is used in milling highly abrasive materials. So in that case, it's essentially anything that is toxic, anything that is abrasive. Abrasive means which has a tendency to corrode other material. Okay, those kind of system can be used here. Okay, if you want to make those chemicals materials into nano form, this is probably one of the best methods. We have told you about the advantages. Obviously, there will be some disadvantages. Okay, so what are the disadvantages of this process? Contamination can occur. Why contamination occurs? Because during this one, because you are rotating it too much, there is a possibility that your balls and the walls, once you start hitting with each other, then there will be some particle coming from ball surface as well as from wall surface. Now those are not the ones that you want. You want only the bulk material to be disintegrated in the nano form, but they will also be included in your final product. So that's why there is a problem of the contamination. As it is a collision based process where everything is colliding with each other, all the balls is colliding with walls and bulk materials, there is a high machine lawrence level. So you have to be really careful while using it, especially at the high rotating speed. Okay, relatively long milling time. Obviously, when you start using this kind of thing, initially you may not know about this process. So that's why you have to keep optimizing this, and you will realize that in order to get to a material at the nanoscale, you really need to have a long milling time. Some cases hours, it could be hours, 6 to 7 hours. Okay, depending on the materials that you are using and the size of the balls and the other parameters that you have chosen for that particular set of experiment. Now it is difficult to clean the machine after use. Now once, if you are using the same material, you can take them out, put the new batch in, and you can continue. But if you want to use a different material, then you have to clean the balls. Now the problem is that there will be certain sort of contamination which is happening during the process, and that is a bit tricky to get rid of. Some of the bulk also, once during the formation of nanomaterial, those nanomaterial can also be actually pasted on the walls as well as on the balls. So those things are also a bit tricky to clean. So that's why it is difficult to clean the machine after use. Okay, so these are some of the disadvantages of this process. So today we have discussed about what are the different types of synthesis of nanomaterials, top down and bottom up, and I have explained the bottom up, the top down mechanical ball milling approach as a reference for your example, as an example. Okay, so next class what we will be discussing, we will start discussing the bottom up approach, and we will take an example of sol gel process. I hope you like this particular session. Thank you again. Once again, thanks everyone for attending the session. See you in the next class. Bye.